Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Honorable Deputy Speaker, may I start from where my colleague Honorable Kabir Hashim finally wound up his speech in order to add some points to what he mentioned about the manner in which we deal with the legislation that we enact in this country. I would like to start with a quotation from Justice Veeramantri, an internationally reputed jurist, former judge of the International Court of Justice, who in his book, The Law in Crisis, said this: Sri Lanka is embarrassed by the richness of its laws. When the Deputy Speaker left the chair, I was quoting from Justice Veeramantri in his book, The Law in Crisis. Sri Lanka is embarrassed by the richness of its laws and not by the lack of it. What he is alluding to is the perennial problem in our country where we enact laws from time to time but pay scant regard for their implementation unless when it is politically convenient. This is what has been happening in this country. Therefore, now with the IMF giving the government a roadmap to address specifically corruption vulnerabilities in this country, we have become a country with a dubious record of being the first Asian country to go into a governance diagnosis review. Come September, we will be the first Asian country to be subjected to IMF review of a governance diagnostic. This is a level to which we have now come, and therefore the government is compelled to amend our legislation pertaining to anti-corruption, and we are now proceeding to also, and in the meantime, even in the Geneva resolution against Sri Lanka, they spoke about the need to address the economic crimes. So the first time in the history of the Human Rights Council in Geneva, a government was accused of economic crimes, and that again became Sri Lanka. So therefore, we had this dubious record. Therefore, it is inevitable for us to bring in this legislation to address the corruption vulnerabilities, and therefore, we are now trying to bring this Anti-Corruption Act to repeal and replace the Bribery Act, the Commission to Investigate Allegations of Bribery and Corruption Act, and the Declaration of Assets and Liabilities Law, all of which are now being incorporated into this new legislation. And this is bringing in some new elements also. Bribery in the private sector is to be addressed. Offences relating to sporting events is going to be included. Sexual favours as a form of gratification is also included. Bribery of a foreign public official is also made an offence. So there were a lot of important new areas that this bill seeks to introduce. And similarly, we are also bound to try and bring in the stolen asset recovery legislation very soon to supplement what is to be brought about through this bill. Therefore, that's another undertaking that will be given to the IMF. And therefore, there is a long history. I think we have time until somewhere March next year to bring in that legislation as well. I don't think we need to wait until then. Already a committee where Justice Kodagoda has headed a committee where our former Director General, Senior President's Counsel, Sarath Jayamana too, has made some inputs into that about non-conviction based stolen asset recovery. That is very important because we cannot wait until our courts go through the entire process and we get the convictions. So at least there must be a preliminary order through a judicial process where with substantial prima facie evidence, if it is proven and if it to the satisfaction of the judge, that a non-conviction based asset recovery also could be included. That is very, very important if we are going to get rid of this draconian corruption prevalent in our country. So, several speakers before me there have dealt with this. I must thank the Transparency International local chapter, Center for Policy Alternatives, even the PAFREL organization, various others, civil society organizations, non-governmental organizations, international INGOs have all been involved in shaping this new legislation. We members have been summoned for various workshops to make our inputs as well, to discuss various issues. Must thank the Honourable Minister, Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, who had summoned the consultative committee several times for us to discuss amendments. And he has taken on board some of the suggestions that have been made. It would be welcome if we can also bring in the retrospective effect of what we are seeking, to include crimes in the past to also be properly embodied through a separate provision in the Act, if he is agreeable to do that. I am told that so far he has not given consent for that.
Remember, you have 2 more minutes.
Yes. Now, with using those 2 more minutes, I want to digress a little bit and thank the Honourable Minister, Justice Vijayadasa, Minister, President's Council Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, for having agreed to take on board suggestions made by us Muslim members today, bringing in improvements to our Muslim Marriage and Divorce Act. He is prepared to bring in a new act where certain issues where there was a lot of controversy, there was many amendments suggested, different ministers have come and gone, including myself. So this bill, which was enacted way back in 1950s, needed to be brought in line with the current trend and to include many issues, including complaints regarding the need to have some gender parity in appointment of Qazi judges. We have all come to an agreement to see that those matters are included, as well as to increase the age of marriage to 18 years. These are matters of paramount importance to the community as well. We thank even the Women's Caucus in this Parliament, who had raised certain issues. We have embodied many such provisions which are not in conflict with the Islamic Sharia. So that, and we must also thank the All Ceylon Jamiatul Ulama, All Ceylon Young Men's Muslim Association, the Muslim Council, and various other civil society organizations, including our senior parliamentarian H.M. Fauzi, who led a team of all the Muslim parliamentarians, and we have come to a consensus, and we would like to see this new bill being presented without further delay, embodying all the amendments we have suggested. So with those comments, I conclude. Thank you.